Oh yes, it's coming in 3, 2, 1. On the air with FDT-TV, the premier West Ham and Arsenal football podcast, brought to you every Monday by Michael Hawes and Ian Varker. Hello and welcome to the season finale, episode 41 of this season. It's been a long old slog for seemingly not a lot. But
well, you won the most important trophy, mate. Let's be honest.
I did. We'll have to do a trophy ceremony thing at some point. But yeah, it's all good fun. But other than a bit of a damp squib for both West Ham and Arsenal at the end of the season, how you doing?
Yeah, not bad. I think the best thing to come out of this season was this shirt. If I'm being completely honest. No, I've, in all seriousness, I mentioned my goals at the start of the season. Whilst we didn't hit the goals, so no silverware, no Champions League spot, I think you can definitely see there has been an improvement over the course of the 12 months. There's still some areas which we obviously are lacking. Squad depth, I think, is a massive factor for us. Big summer coming now. We've managed to get a lot of dead weight off of the books, and I think that was one of the things that Arteta was going for this year. Still could probably do with a clear out, but I suppose on the most part, yes, I'm gutted we missed out on Champions League, but we're back in Europe, which is good. But just pipped at the post by Spurs, bastards.
You say one or two results different in the season, and it all could have been different. But obviously, as you said, back in Europe, is not getting into the Champions League with no extra football a failure, in your opinion, though?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. So what I'm taking from that is Arteta out.
No.
Stir the pot.
No, I'm very much. I've seen a lot of stuff on social media, and it's just your typical social media. You've got the Arteta out brigade. Always seem to rear their ugly heads when results aren't going their way. Don't hear a peep out of them when they're when Arsenal's on top. And I think I've just come to realise that I'm a cynical old man, 37 this year, and the majority of social media are arseholes. I'm going to be
yes, they are. Here's the thing I've taken from Arsenal's season is you're lacking that sort of older level head that can grab the game by the scruff of the neck and go, right, let's salvage something. And with, as you've been bagging on, the younger average squad in the Premier League, obviously I think they would have learnt a few things this season, and I think you will push on next season if you can get the right signings in.
And that's going to be the key thing. I've already started to see some names banded about, which obviously we can go into more detail on our season review videos, talk about potential signings. Obviously, we've got the whole summer to discuss now what's going on in the transfer market, etc.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be an interesting few months. I just hope that we get the business done early, like we did last year. I think that's going to be key for us. We definitely need some reinforcements within the squad.
Yeah,
100%.
Well, I think you're now without a striker, aren't you? Apart from Balogun.
Depending on what happens with Lacazette and Nketiah. Personally, I said it a couple of weeks ago. With Nketiah, I don't think he's clinical enough to be primary striker. Obviously, if he wants to stick around and fight for his position, I think that's one of the areas where we definitely need reinforcements in. Lacazette, I've already seen links with Marseille, I believe, or possibly Lyon, because I think he came from
Lyon, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think he's done. His time in England I think, is going to be over. I'd be very surprised if we did sign him for another season. Obviously, he's got his age. He's the wrong side of 30 now. We'll probably want a ridiculous amount of money, and obviously we've seen over the last few years with Arsenal that as soon as you get a player on these big money contracts, they disappear even more. So
Yeah.
I think we're going to cut our losses on that one.
Sort of say goodbye while it's still amicable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Makes sense. So you do go into the Europa League next year. Do you think that's going to be your best bet in trying to get Champions League football? Is winning that competition?
I would say yes. I'll be interested to see what our neighbours across the way do in the Champions League. Obviously, I think with Conte at the helm, they're likely to attract the bigger players. Obviously, being in the Champions League, they're likely to attract the bigger players. So, could you say that they are more than likely to be above us again next season? Quite possibly. Again, because they've got a world-class manager. You've got their front three is ridiculous at the moment, with the number of goals that they've scored, which we'll come on to a bit later on. Yeah, I think it's going to be a massive task for us.
Do you know what?
To get into the Champions League via the league.
I think Spurs. I've got to hope Daniel Levy pulls his finger out. And the reason I say that is they've promised, allegedly, Conte 6 signings to try and tempt him to stay and keep going. But with Daniel Levy, Tottenham always leave that business late and try and get in a deal. I don't think he'll hang about. I think if they don't start getting players that he goes, I want them, and don't go out and get them, I think he's gone before the season starts.
Well, there was that rumour, wasn't there, about PSG looking for new management, obviously, with Pochettino, I think, is being released, or has been released, being released.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's always that option. It's another elite club. Obviously, Mbappe signing until 2025, I believe, on a mega money deal. So yeah, there's every possibility with them. So yeah,
it's all strange. And then obviously we almost got Champions League, and I think as our fate was sealed on the when Jared Bowen's overhead kick hit the bar, I think that was us done. We didn't need a second leg at that point. I think we was finished. So with that, we're in the Europa Conference League, which is I didn't want, if I'm totally honest with you. I mean, you go and play Carrier Bag United in deepest Peru, week in, week out. And I think, as you've mentioned with Arsenal, I think with West Ham, the transfer window will be key. They mucked up January, big time. And I think if they had strengthened with a striker and a defender, I think we win the Europa League. If I'm totally honest with you, I think we don't muck up the last day against Brighton. And we finish above United to get Europa League minimum. But it is what it is. We've had a good run of it. I think we've had a decent run in Europe. We've had a decent spell flirting with the top of the table for a long time. So overall, we have to say it's a success. Other thing is, can we keep Declan Rice and Jared Bowen?
Yeah, that's that. I think that's going to be really difficult. Not impossible by any means.
I think we'll keep Bowen. I think we'll offer him big money. Apparently, we're offering him to double his wages. I think the problem one will be Declan Rice. I think he'll probably do one more season and then leave. And it's one of those. Do you sell him to Man City now for 100 million and go, thank you very much, and let's put that 100 million into players? Or do you take the risk and hope you get Champions League football next year? It's a hard one.
Yeah, definitely. To be honest, I've said it a couple of times this season that West Ham have definitely been a guilty pleasure of mine for this season. I mean, I kind of have to watch them anyway, obviously, to make sure I'm up to date with all things West Ham and Arsenal. But they have been entertaining, or really entertaining at points. And I mentioned this possibly last week or the week before, where I remember last season, obviously, or the back end of last season, when you guys had qualified for the Europa League, and we didn't. And you made a very good point of reaffirming that we weren't in Europe at all this year. So thanks for that, for starters. But it was funny when you said that you'll be the first club. What is it? You said you'll be
First club to win it and get relegated.
Yeah. And let's be honest, man. I think you were really unlucky. I think in the Europa League, and I would have loved nothing better for you to go on. But I suppose that one way you can say you got knocked out by the champions.
Yeah,
League, so
I think that they only got through because of that ref in the first leg. He was awful. We had two awful refs. One that had definitely been done for match fixing. The other one, I think, had been alleged but not proven. But there were some dubious calls in there. But it is what it is. You have to, even with that, you have to be the better team. You have to put your chances away. We didn't do it. So it is what it is. But I think what we need to do is go into some player of the season, some signing of the season. I would say goal of the season, but I can't remember any goals. And maybe then team of the year. So I think we should start with player of the season. Who would you give player of the season to?
So my player of the season is a guy that's unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable in the world of football. He's done it in the Premier League. He's done it in Spain. He's done it in Italy. And he's back again in the Premier League this year. 37 years old, 36, 37 years old. Still an absolute machine. 30 appearances this year, 18 goals and 3 assists. Is for me, Cristiano Ronaldo is the player of the season for me. To still be able to do it on such an elite level. Let's be honest, it's rescued some serious points for Man United this year. Just absolutely phenomenal. I can't believe he's still going, and I think he would rip it up still next year.
Yeah,
I don't think he'd play every game, by no means, but I think the games that he will play, he'll still know where the back of the net is. Would still probably run rings around quite a few players.
Yeah,
just phenomenal.
And in fairness, I almost went for him as well. With Manchester United, without just his goals, let alone the assists and plays that he, like assists plus one, would have scored 39 goals, which puts them obviously one above Wolves, who didn't do too terribly, but only 5 goals more than Watford and Burnley. And I think that says it all. They finished on a net 0 goal difference. And I think his goals came in key games that kept him in it or won on points. And yeah, I think without him, I'm going to say it, without him, I reckon they were fighting a relegation battle.
Yeah, I still think, even to this day, that sacking Ollie was possibly the worst thing they could have done.
Yes.
Whilst I think he had lost the dressing room, I mean, in fact, I don't even think he lost the dressing room. I think the dressing room was too big for him. I know he'd been at the club for what, 4 years?
Yeah,
4 years at that particular point.
Yeah.
It just seemed ludicrous because there was games that you expected Ollie to be sacked after. If they lost, and he kept him in it. The timing was wrong for me, and the appointment that was made after I thought was absolutely ridiculous. And I'm interested to see who they get in the summer.
What, in terms of player?
Yep.
Yep.
And also what this Ten Hag is going to do for them, even in pre-season.
I think it's an interesting one. I think they allegedly he wants to bring Jurriën Timber with him from Ajax, who is he can play as a left wing back and he can play as a right wing back, but I think generally he's like a ball playing defender. Is that probably the best way to describe him? Really young Dutch guy, brilliant. But he's known for using the youth, isn't he? Bringing through youth players. So you think you've still got Rashford and Greenwood, but I can't see him ever playing for Manchester United again. But some of those players that are homegrown, I think that will be the focal point of United. That Hannibal Medri, who's played the last few games, Angel Gomez, I think he was out on loan this year. But those young players who you see fleeting appearances from in the cups and then they just disappear. The big thing they have got going is Paul Pogba. He's going, and I think that's a fabulous thing. Obviously, Cavani's going past his best, but could have still done a job. A little bit annoyed. The one person who apparently he's trying to talk into staying is Juan Mata.
Oh, okay.
Which I thought was a bit strange, but actually when you look at his playing stats for Manchester United, still even when they're struggling, when he plays, he generally gets an assist or a goal every other game. Elder statesman, consummate professional, good head to be around the dressing room. But I think it could be an interesting season next year for United. What I think they need to accept is they're not going to go out and win the Champions League. And they're not, not the Champions League, the Premier League. They're not going to go out and win the Europa League, even though they should. They might get a cup, an FA Cup maybe, but it's one of those, you need to give him 3 transfer windows and back him completely to the point of almost taking that squad back to 0. I don't know. I don't know whether he will do well. I hope he does. Just because obviously, if all the managers are getting their teams playing well, it becomes a more competitive league, which is good for everybody. In the other sense, it's sort of like, I hope he fails and they've got 2 points from 10 games and everyone can laugh at them still. It's a double-edged sword.
There's a player I'm very conscious of for Manchester United, didn't get the send-off I think he deserved. Obviously is now or will be released from the club. Jesse Lingard.
Yep.
What do you think is going to happen with him during the summer?
Apparently he's told Newcastle he's not interested unless they pay him a ridiculous wage. And I can get that in some respects. It's a long way north, and does he really want to go and play there and possibly be a bit part player, like in the not next season but the season after? The papers are ruining that he's coming back to West Ham, which could be good, but it could be a bit like Joe Willock. He'll have a fantastic loan spell. He didn't join in January, and it's going to be sort of that, I wish it was like it was, but it's never quite going to get to that peak. I think he'll do reasonably well wherever he goes, but maybe it is a case to go, right, let's go to America. Let's go and be in the sun, or even Italy, somewhere like that. Do you know what I mean? Let's go and be in the sun, in the heat, get playing really well for a season, and then go bang, one final big contract. I don't know. I'd take him, but I don't know. I didn't answer your question there at all, did I? But I do agree he didn't get the send off at United. He should have walked into that team, especially because the form they were in, and he still couldn't get a look in. But I think that's down to the piss poor man management of the interim manager, who seemed to upset absolutely everybody in that dressing room and make them worse than what they were. So,
yep.
Agreed. The interesting one, I think, for me, there's possibly two. Newcastle being one. They're ruining, obviously, potentially this new fitness test and standards test coming in for for owners, which is ongoing. So that could sway it a little bit. They could spend big and do really well. They could spend big and flop. Obviously, Everton, I don't know if they're moving into their new stadium next year or whether it's the season after. But when Lampard took over, they were 16th. He's led them back to 16th. But I do think they were playing some decent football. I think they didn't have some luck in some of the games. But when you look at it, 4 points clear. Calvert-Lewin's back. Richarlison's back. Anthony Gordon looks like a world-class player. Next season, I think they could be pushing up there for Europa League again. Same with Leicester. Injury-stricken season. They still finished 8th. There's all these things. I know people are going on about Gerrard at Aston Villa. I'm actually going to tip them for relegation next year. I don't know why. I just get that gut feeling.
Fair enough.
But who have you got? Who's gonna, or who do you think is going to catch your eye next year for possibly a push up into that top 8, top 7?
Crystal Palace is one for me.
Yep.
I think they had a not a bad season.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to be honest. I was really impressed with the job that Vieira had done.
Yes.
I remember at the start of the season we were like, "What the hell was going on here?" And again, Crystal Palace, I think, were unfortunate in a couple of games, with just the way that the tide was swinging on some of the fixtures they had. But hopefully next year, because I think one of the things that has been a struggle again this year. Yeah, I know we've had fans and stuff back in, but was the amount of COVID cases. Obviously, that's caused a fixture congestion of some sorts because of games being postponed and all that sort of business. So hopefully, we'll have a relatively normal season, World Cup excluding. Do you know what I mean? So I think for me, Crystal Palace is one that'll be pushing up the table. Relegation fodder. If we're looking at the teams that remain in, not looking at obviously the teams that have been promoted.
Yep.
I think Leeds and Southampton are going to be on my radar next year.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I think it could be an interesting time. I think next year there could be 6 or 7 teams possibly, because you obviously Fulham are coming up, and they tend to do well in the Championship, but can't quite transfer that to Premier League. Bournemouth, I just don't think have got the size of the stadium and the crowd to push on and stay up. And then obviously I have Huddersfield, who again we see do reasonably well, but were too small to sustain it, or potentially Nottingham Forest coming back up.
Is that's this weekend? Isn't
that
it?
Is, yeah.
Yep.
But
yeah,
you think those 3 have all got to be tipped for relegation, and I think you're right. Leeds, Southampton, Brentford maybe, although they've done well. It just depends on what they can do. Wolves, if they don't kick on, because they only scored 1 goal a game on average. Although they finished 10th, but when you look at their form for the last 6 games of the season, they're sitting 17th,
Yep.
and that's not great, especially being as you sort of Raul Jimenez is on his sort of end part of his career. Ruben Diaz is being linked with moves away. Connor Cody's being linked with moves away. Where does that oomph come from next year? It's I think we're teeing up to have a very interesting season. The one thing that I did think will be interesting is because from not next season but the season after, the Champions League is increasing the amount of teams that go into it. So next season, from what I've read and can understand, there will be 5 places up for grabs for Champions League place for England because of the historical progression and how well the teams have done and things like that. So that, I think, could change things. If you only have to finish 5th to get in the top, if you have to finish 5th to get in the top 4, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does that mean people go, actually, the Carabao Cup, let's put a proper team out for that, because we can afford to lose a couple of games here and there. We can afford to play a changed squad. I don't know. So it means essentially 9 places will be up for grabs for European football. So if you finish top half, you're essentially getting some form of European football next year.
Mm-hmm.
Plus FA Cup, Carabao Cup. So potentially the top 11 teams next year could all be playing, which seems mad.
Yeah, man.
11. Oh, we finished 11th. Yeah, that's good. We're getting into Conference League next year.
Conference League.
Don't know.
That is mental.
Don't know. But, so, did I mention my player of the season? Son Heung-min Son. Heung-min Son. Yeah. Sorry, I've not had much sleep. But Heung-min Son for me, I think he's been unbelievable. I think you put him in that City squad, he scores 40 goals this season. I think his finishing was unbelievable. They weren't playing great. I know, obviously, they still finished top 4, but I think there was a long periods of that season where they didn't play well, and they were there for the taking. Yet he was the player who produced week in, week out, and sort of dragged them. I know Harry Kane's got a few goals as well and assists, but Son for me this year has been, and it's strange to say, he's been delightful to watch play football. And I don't like saying that because he plays for Spurs. Like, I hope that City side him or Liverpool side him or Chelsea side him, so you can go, oh, it's not so bad. But no, I think he has been tremendous this year.
I have a question for you, because I think he only signed a contract extension last year.
Okay.
I think it was. Obviously, we know nowadays that contracts don't mean anything.
Yep.
Do you realistically see him being up for sale this summer, or do you think it's going to be an astronomical fee in order to pry him away? I'm thinking for the likes of Real Madrid. Obviously, they had that agreement with Kylian Mbappe.
Yep.
But obviously, that's now fallen through.
Yep. So
I think Son could play through the middle.
I think Son will be on the radar, but I think Mohamed Salah will be the one to try and replace that Mbappe deal. They're both sort of 30-ish. I would actually put Son as a better player, better team player, certainly. And I think because of his age and the fee that it will command to leave Tottenham, I think that will put a lot of people off. But then again, Harry Kane's not leaving now, is he? Because who's going to buy him? Unless Real Madrid come in for Harry Kane, which I think is unlikely. Stranger thing has happened, but I think it's unlikely. Son will stay. I think if Harry Kane goes, he'll go, no, I want to go. I don't want to stay here. But as I said, the club have got to match the ambition of the manager. If they don't do that, Conte goes, then the players want out, then it's all a shambles. If they match the ambition of the manager, because I think Son, Kane, Kulusevski have all bought into that philosophy of how he wants to play. So have some of the other players. Obviously, they do need improvements in certain areas, but I think if they can keep them three players and help them push on, it's like, do they go in for Christian Eriksen, bring him back to the club? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He would provide a lot more chances for them to score. It's that sort of thing. If they can get those right players in that buy into his way of wanting to play, they're bottle jobs, but they're what, 3 points behind Chelsea, who were up there for a long time of the season. There's then a huge gap between Liverpool and City. I think Liverpool will fall away this year.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is I think Salah will leave, Mane will leave, and okay, they've got Luis Diaz and Jota, but then I think there's going to be that rumblings of that conspiracy of asthma, yeah. And I think will be a very delicate balance between the FA or the Premier League not wanting to investigate, because then it will come out of the counter allegations. Well, we know that you fix matches, and then that turns everything on its head. But I think they will fall away. I think City, although they're losing Fernandinho, who will be a big miss, I think, for them, they will replace him. I think they'll either replace him with Declan Rice or Calvin Phillips, if I'm totally honest. They've got Haaland coming in. What they were missing this year, and it seems stupid, they scored 99 goals. They were missing goals this year. They had Gabriel Jesus, who couldn't score until he was linked with Arsenal, and then he went on a run of 4 or 5 games. But if they've got Haaland, who does make those gut-busting runs, who does defend as well, and has shown that desire to improve and push on, I think they win everything next year. I really do. That just the strength in depth that they will have, I think they win everything next year. But can Tottenham close the gap? And that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not right. Let's keep up them. Let's close the gap. Let's make that 5 points this year, because we know they're going to be phenomenal. Let's nick some points off them. Let's make sure we grind out draws that were losses. Let's close the gap.
See, there's me thinking as well. Just looking at the table now, and I know Tottenham pulled out some massive results this season. I'm actually quite surprised that we were relatively close in the goals for and the goals against.
Yeah.
Column.
I think. Do you know what? Those first 4 games of the season mucked you up.
Yep.
Then you had obviously a couple, Crystal Palace and who was it in Brighton? Was it?
Yeah, Crystal Palace, Brighton, and Southampton.
That at minimums you should have ground out draws to. And then if you got rid of them, obviously you had that Ramsdale was out for a couple of games as well. If those things didn't happen, and as I said, with the experience that they would have got from those games, hopefully they'll be able to push on and improve on it next year, you would have finished third. I don't think you'd have finished second. I think you'd have finished third, because Chelsea really struggled in front of goal. They brought Lukaku back, but he doesn't fit the system.
No.
Timo Werner, obviously, yeah, would say Timo Werner, I think, found his feet a little bit more because the pressure was being put on Lukaku, not on him. But they really dropped off. They were flying at the beginning of the season. They really dropped off. But I do think those just little tweaks, little inconsistencies in your game made you finish 5th instead of 3rd.
Yep. Completely agree.
But again, I could say the same about us. We slipped up in some silly games. And okay, we wouldn't have necessarily been challenging for top 4 still, but I think we would have been 60 plus points. I think we should have realistically finished 65 points. Because we had some silly results. Like last game of the season, we lost against Brighton. They're a bit of a bogey team for us. We never seem to get a full result. But if we had a decent depth of squad, there's Crystal Palace game. Like there's silly games that you could have taken 3 points off of quite easy.
Yeah.
I mean, we was unlucky against City, which I think they're quite grateful for, that they got back into that game. But do you know what I mean? Like things like that, you don't always get them, but 1 or 2 every season. Don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know. Right, should we?
On next season. That's all I'm saying.
Who is your signing of the season?
For me, I'm just going to base these next elections on Arsenal.
Okay.
So for signing of the season, for me, Aaron Ramsdale, 100%. I think he's been absolutely incredible. There were quite a few skeptics at the start of the season when we did sign him.
I'll put my hand up. That was me.
We had first few games, as you mentioned, 3 defeats on the bounce to Brentford, City and Chelsea. City and Chelsea, you could kind of expect that, but certainly not Brentford. And Aaron Ramsdale come in and done absolutely amazing. 12 clean sheets for this season. Has pulled off some absolutely spectacular saves, even to the point where a couple of managers have been seen after the incident. They turn around, look at the camera, and like, he's not bad.
Yeah.
He's been player of the season for the last 2 cups he's played at, which is why I know they were relegated, or both teams were relegated that he did play for. But obviously had or was showing potential for what he was doing. Didn't know much about him, to be honest, but was willing to give him a chance. And I think he's immediately, even after his first few games, was a fan favourite.
Yeah.
Likes to get involved in a bit of shithousery with the opposition fans. All aboard the banter bus, as you say. But for me, I think he commands his defence well. Just absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I think potentially, I don't like to say this about many players, but could potentially be a future captain.
Well, don't wish that on him. He'll become shit and leave.
Yeah, good point.
Now, I wholeheartedly agree on that one. There was a few that was up there for me, if I'm totally honest. Craig Dawson, I thought we could have got on a technicality because he was only on loan last year. And I think he's done phenomenally. Same with Kurt Zuma. Could have put that up there. Coutinho, just to get that quality of player for Aston Villa, I thought was a phenomenal bit of business. And he did do a bit of a job. Couldn't single-handedly drag him any further up, but did a job. So he was in contention. And Luis Diaz from Liverpool. He's come in, hit the ground running in January, and I say, been phenomenal. Obviously, I did think about Dele Alli, but then I thought, no, that was a waste of 40 million quid. But yeah, Aaron Ramsdale for me. I say at the beginning of the season, I said I would eat my hat if he does any good. And actually, he should have been playing sooner. Think what could have been if Leno hadn't. Can't dive left. Leno couldn't would have been dropped earlier. I mean, yeah.
Yes, it's one of those things you have to kind of look back on. And obviously, as you mentioned, a couple of games for which he was injured. Just unfortunate timing, because I think it was around about that time we had Kieran Tierney out with injury as well. Obviously, Ben White has had a few injuries of late. Thomas Partey injured as well, so the injuries did come at an unfortunate time. And I won't beat around the bush. There's still been some silly defensive mistakes from Arsenal this year. I think we're like second or third best in the league for set pieces, or certainly defending set pieces. um, which I think is brilliant. But I can't really fault Aaron Ramsdale this season. I think he's made one or two mistakes. There's been a couple of hairy moments, don't get me wrong, where he's almost got caught out playing the ball out of the back. But on some of those occasions, it's end up leading to goals as well. So yeah, I can't fault him. I think he's absolutely brilliant, and with his age as well, potential England #1 for the summer as well.
Yeah,
for the World Cup.
Certainly, if he keeps up that form, yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. So yeah, for me, signing of the season, 100%.
Yeah, we agreed. So there is a bit of news that has come in. Sort of Spurs, that the people who own Spurs have agreed to put in £150 million for next season to help on and off the pitch. That can be spent however it's deemed most necessary. So potentially big things come in there. Hector Bellerin, obviously he's coming back. If Tomiyasu's fit, does he get him out of the squad? I don't know.
No.
But the other one, which I thought was quite interesting, is Mikel Arteta has confirmed that William Saliba will be coming to Arsenal and will be part of the first team for next year.
And that's one of the reasons as well why I don't think Bellerin will come back into the team. Now, I know Saliba plays centre-back, which will be good because it's good competition for Rob Holding, Ben White, Gabriel Magalhaes. He will definitely get his turn this season, 100%. Obviously, with European football as well.
Yep.
100% he gets into the team.
Definitely more strength in depth. The other one I thought was interesting for Arsenal, and this is something I do want to get your opinion on before we move on to Team of the Year. Yuri Telemans, £17 million, I think it's been banded around.
More than that.
If you can, is it more than that? Is that just an initial fee? Is it?
Possibly. I've seen something. Well, granted, it was only one report. I saw something. It was like 27, 30. Oh no, hang on. I'm lying. I'm getting confused with the Gabriel Jesus. Sorry.
I was going to say I've seen it for about 17 million. Yeah. One, I think you'll face competition because I think he can do it. If he's and say he's one of those players who a couple of years ago was wanted by everybody as a youngster. He can do it in the Premier League. Obviously, has had his injury troubles, but is that a player you'd be interested in signing? I think he would probably challenge Partey for that holding sort of playmaker role.
100%. If he's got an injury record, mate, we'll definitely have him. We love signing injury players. Even in January, we'll sign players with back injuries and stuff. And they only make about 3 or 4 appearances.
Okay. I'll get on the transfer list in January.
I'm surprised we haven't signed Andy Carroll. No, in all seriousness, he was a player that was kind of banded around back in January as well. And I know there was a lot of people that were disappointed when we didn't go for him in January. But yeah, certainly, I do think he would be a good addition to the squad. Obviously, we've seen Thomas Partey having injuries, so again, he's going to get one. He's one that would get games again across all the competitions as well next year, which we will be in. The one of the things that, as I said at the start of this, is that any transfer business, I hope we get done early.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel coming towards the end of the window. And I think if we do get the business done as early as we can, obviously we don't want to pay over and above the odds, but I think this is one of the times where we have to see Arsenal pay a player for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Or for what they're worth.
Well,
especially if we want to compete next year.
I think it especially necessary considering we've got that winter break for the World Cup this year, and I think the season starts a little bit earlier, ends a little bit later. So you need to get those players in, give them as much time to bed into that squad, get the tactics, get the personnel, and give them the best chance to hit the ground running.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. So yes, he is one I would be interested in.
In fairness, if he's 17 million quid, I think we should throw our name in the hat. Come to us. And I'm sure Newcastle will, because they'll be in for everybody. But shall we get into Team of the Year? So what we've done, we've put together 2 11-men lists of for Team of the Year. We've both gone with a 4-3-3. So let's switch over to that now. So we are very little. Obviously, Mike's players are a little bit bigger than mine, just because of technicalities.
I'm older.
Yeah, but we start off with goalkeepers. I went with Aaron Ramsdale just because he was my signing of the season. I think he changed Arsenal, or changed Arsenal's fortunes almost single-handedly at some points. So that's why he's in my squad. And you've gone for?
I've gone for Alisson. Again, I would have gone for Aaron Ramsdale because he has been, as I mentioned, the signing of the season. I think he's definitely improved us, as you say. There's been a lot more clean sheets than what we've seen in last season, or the last few seasons. Sorry, should I say?
Yeah.
However, looking at the what am I trying to say? Looking at the overall position,
Yep.
I don't think you can look too far of Liverpool and Manchester City.
Yep.
Both conceded 26 goals this season. Alisson's kept 20 clean sheets.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Out of 38 games.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
He for me, especially towards the end of the season, had a few blunders, a few moments, but they all seem to come right at the end of the season. But yeah, solid choice. So left back, who have you gone for?
João Cancelo.
Very good, solid choice. He was up there for me. Obviously, I like a few stats. I went for Tyrick Mitchell from Crystal Palace, only for the reason that he was up there in the stats for tackles and passes, interceptions, things like that, and I think just had a solid season. Obviously, he made his England debut as well, and yeah, for me, I just thought was a decent little left back this season.
To be honest, when I was doing some research on this, he was on a few people's lists.
I think underrated.
Yes.
One of the more underrated. If he played for City, Liverpool, Chelsea, then people would go, this player's something. And it's a little bit. It reminds me a little bit of when Wan-Bissaka came through that first season at Crystal Palace, and everyone went, "This guy's phenomenal." Then he went to United the season after, and couldn't. I don't think he's got worse, but he's not attack minded. He's a defensive left back or right back.
Yep.
And I think Tyrick Mitchell needs to learn some lessons from maybe his former teammate and go, let's stick with Vieira. We've been solid this year. We may get Wan-Bissaka back from United on the cheap. Let's push on being defensive and compact. But so left centre back, I went for Antonio Rudiger. And I've
gone for. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say I put the two City boys together in your one.
Yes, yeah, I've gone for Ruben Diaz. 12 clean sheets, 2 goals. To be honest, it is. I think when you're looking at, as I said, the Premier League for those two, for the fewer goal or the fewest goals that they've conceded, I don't think you could look too far from those two teams.
Yeah.
Personally, that's just my personal.
I was going to say the reason I went to Rudiger is I think he was Chelsea's probably best player this season, and obviously I think he's signed for Bayern Munich on a free. I don't know if that's been confirmed yet, but I think from his performance this year, he was strong, fast, challenged for everything, scored goals. I think he walked into any back four in the world this season, and that's why I've gone for him, because you think Ruben Diaz solid. Laporte lets him down on occasion, or Fernandinho or John Stones lets him down. your next choice, Virgil van Dijk. Sorry for anyone audio listening. Obviously, if you're on YouTube, you can already see it. But let down on occasion by Matip, who has been better this season. But if they were paired up with Rudiger, I think that's almost unbeatable. But just my humble opinion and some fact. But so yeah, sorry, I've stolen your thunder. You've gone for Virgil van Dijk.
I don't. No, I haven't.
I've changed it.
No, Virgil van Dijk, 21 clean sheets this season. Again, as do you know what? When he signed from Southampton, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was kind of ridiculous money as well, and they were some of the positions which really let Liverpool down. So the defence and the goalkeeper.
Yep.
Obviously, they improved with the signing of Alisson, and Virgil van Dijk was one of those ones where you kind of knew he was good, but you didn't realise how good he was going to be.
Yes.
And I think for Van Dijk as well, I know he had a bit of a poor season last year, and didn't have a poor season last year. He had an injury-stricken season last year because of the, I would say, horrific tackle from Jordan Pickford, but some would say it was a brilliant tackle from Jordan Pickford.
Depends on what side of Liverpool you live on.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those ones where I think with his absence last year, it showed in terms of where Liverpool finished. And I think he's been absolutely instrumental. 3 goals as well this year. I think he's brilliant. It pains me to say it. He's big, he's strong, he's got a big head on him.
I thought you should say got a big old dong. I was going to, how do you know that?
Well, how do you know I don't know that?
Well, so rumours have started. So here's the thing. No. I almost went with Van Dijk. Van Dijk and Ruben Diaz would be on my substitutes bench if we went that far. I don't think he's got any better since he left Southampton. I think he's always been that good, and I think when he was at Celtic before Southampton, he had flashes of it, but he was growing into that player. I think what's happened is he's gone into a Liverpool squad that he's been told, you boss that back line around. That's your back line. You're in charge. And he's playing with better players. So he's got, obviously, Trent to his right, who he knows is going to push on. He's got Alisson behind him. He knows that actually 99 times out of 100, he ain't going to muck it up. So you can play with that confidence. I think he's always been a quality player. He's just, his game seems elevated because he's now playing with better players. Don't know if that's controversial or not, but I went with Pontus Jansson from Brentford. Now, I think a lot of people will go, what are you talking about? I like a stat, and looking at the defensive stats for this season, he's in the top 8 for everything. Aerial duels 1, clearances, blocks, tackles, clearances off the line. And for that reason, I think consistency, he went in for me, because I think clearances, last ditch clearances, and aerial duels, he was top 1 and 2, and then in the top 3 for the other one, or top 4. And for me, I think he's done phenomenally this year. And just on that basis that actually he's consistently in that top sort of 5 or 6 players for every stat defensively, he's another one that's sort of underrated because he doesn't play for a big club. But yeah.
Do you know what I love about it when we do these sorts of... Is you're right, you do love a stat. And I love the fact you draw it into that level of detail. For me, I think I go with the pretty obvious choices. Do you know what I mean? Like for goals scored for strikers, assists.
Yeah.
Then looking at the clean sheets and all that sort of stuff. But I love the fact that you go sometimes completely left field from an obvious choice by drilling down into that level of stats.
It's just because I'm sad. It's no other reason than that. I'm just sad. But But again, I almost went Diaz and Van Dijk because they've finished first and second in the teams. They are two of the best defenders in the world. I'm not saying that we could have signed Ruben Diaz on the cheap the year before City bought him, but fucking Golden Sullivan. Oh, sorry, did that come out? But I feel like if they were in Brentford team, would they pull out the same performances that Pontus Jansson has this season? Would they be able to perform at that level? Don't know. Different squads. Obviously, he faces more shots, things like that. So he has got the opportunity to clear the ball more, to win more aerial duels, things like that. But, and you've gone with what was my second choice for right back, but I went with Reece James for the reason that I like him. He does score a few belters, and I just think he's a decent player. Obviously, up there again, all stats driven, but I just enjoy watching him play, so that's why he's gone in there for me over Trent.
Do you know what? It was a tough call between him and Trent for me. Really tough call, and I wouldn't say it was necessarily much of an eeny, meeny, miny, mo. But I do agree with you with the nice guy. I've seen a side of Trent this year, and there's part of me that you can't. Sorry, let me rephrase this. I can't deny the fact that he's a brilliant right back. He's got a hell of a peg on him in terms of being able to ping a ball 40, 50, 60 yards. Just unbelievable. But I've seen a dirty side to him this year, which when you look at the likes of Granit Xhaka and Gabriel, I think is a good example of this. Even David Luiz, when he was playing for Chelsea and for us, they do have a bit of a nasty side of their game.
Yeah.
But when you see those players going into some of the tackles I've seen Trent put in, and when you see some of the pushing, some of the squaring up to, and all this sort of stuff, had that been anyone else, you can guarantee there'd be bookings, there'd be red cards flying around all over the place.
Yep.
And I do think there is a bit of bias
about 100%
Trent.
But
that being said, again, for a right back who's got the number of for a right back, looking at the numbers of assists he's got, for me is why he's clinched it.
Yes. Oh, I can go with that and say it was a very hard choice, and I do take on board. I think he has sort of got that grit and determination of that sort of win by any means necessary in his game, which he's sort of growing into. I just say attacking fullback, I think he's got to be up there with one of the best in the world. Defensively, I think is where it lets him down. And I think he's lucky that obviously Matip was on form this season and he's played with Van Dijk as well. It fits a really odd system, but I do like him and noted, but I think all round player, Reece James takes it for me. That's just this season. Obviously, it's up for grabs every season, but this season, I think defensively, there's been moments where Trent's been caught out, and then he does come in flying with a tackle, which is always good fun to watch as well. I think the next one, the holding midfielder role, is almost universal across every team of the year. Declan Rice. Obviously,
I'll let you take this one. He's your boy.
He has contributed with more goals this year. He's dragged West Ham through results where we should have lost, we've won or we've drawn. One of the best holding midfield players in the world, and he's still ridiculously young. Obviously, West Ham captain as well, so it's always nice to get a West Ham player in the team of the year. And yeah, I don't think you could do it. It's such a calm head on young shoulders. The vision, the running, the just phenomenal. And that's what I said. If he goes and joins City next year, providing he's honest about it, doesn't go, oh, I love the club, I want to stay. If he comes, he's already said he wants to win everything in his career. If he comes out and goes, look, I've got one opportunity to join the best squad in the world that is going to go and win everything, especially if I'm sitting in a holding midfield spot. And sorry, Rodri, but eat your heart out. He's phenomenal. He's going to be the England captain at some point. I think that's almost dead cert after Harry Kane takes over, providing he doesn't get injured, a really bad injury. He walks into any squad in the world for me.
Yep.
And yeah, that's why he's there. So I don't know if you want to add. Yes, I don't know if you want to add anything. I mean, he's got over 100 Premier League appearances already. I'm just going to look it up. Actually, he's got. I can tell you. Sorry, 2 seconds. Declan Rice. Let's have a look. Oh, apparently he's only worth 75 million. I don't believe that for a moment. He obviously could have been an Irish player, but he didn't. He switched allegiances. He's got 195 appearances for West Ham.
Jesus.
195. He's 23. To have 195 appearances is ridiculous. He's got 29 England caps. He's 23. He's a holding midfielder. What is going on? Do you know what I mean? Like, he played 36 games this year in the Premier League. And he did miss a couple through injury, I think. But in total, across the whole season, 4,422 minutes. I think he missed, 5-6 games all season. So, yeah. But the other common denominator in that midfield is what a lot of people have given team of the or player of the year to, Kevin De Bruyne. I think he had a quiet first half of the season, phenomenal end to the season, and decent sort of second half. I think he could have done better if he'd been in form all season. But again, just a wizard. A wizard. I don't know any other way to put it.
Yeah, to be honest, he's another player, I think, looking over the last couple of seasons. He's always been a fantastic footballer. But I think this year has been different class. I don't think there's many that could rival his ability. Yeah.
And I tell you what, do you know what I was thinking? I watched that last game of the season where he was trying his best. Like, nothing was coming off for him in that first half. But now I thought he's the sort of player I can see in 10 years' time. I think he's like 28, still playing in that sort of, when Pirlo got to the end of his career, that really deep sitting, just pinging the balls to within an inch all over the pitch. That's what I can see him transferring his game to as he gets older. Because obviously that high press of City is going to take it out on your legs at some point. But to have him as a sort of linchpin, just that pinging off passes left, right and centre, he could play forever and still walk into most Premier League squads. But yeah, phenomenal for me. And then we do have one change of midfield. I'll let you take the lead on this.
So for me, I've gone for Martin Ødegaard from Arsenal. 2-6.
If I'm honest, one that I overlooked because it was on my initial list and then I just sort of gave up. because I thought it was like, no, I've got to fit Kevin De Bruyne and Declan Rice in. There's only space for one more, but
Yeah,
he was on my initial list.
So for me, again, he was close to the signing of the season. Obviously, we did see him on loan in the second half of last season. I was super happy when we went in for a permanent transfer. And there's another player that has made a massive impact. We were missing that kind of creative midfielder role since the decline of Mesut Ozil. And I don't think there's really been anyone that can kind of rival him for a starting place. I know, obviously, we've got Emile Smith-Rowe, but I think since the signing of Ødegaard, towards the start of the season anyway, you did see Emile Smith-Rowe kind of keeping Ødegaard out of the team. However, when Ødegaard has come in, he has massively improved the chances that we are creating. He's made 32 chances this season, 7 goals and 4 assists. Now, again, for a midfielder,
excuse me,
I do think next season, looking at some of the players that we've had, obviously Lacazette. Oh, sorry, I'll rephrase that. Aubameyang, when he was with us up until January, was completely off the boil.
Yeah.
Lacazette has been completely off the boil in terms of the number of goals that he's got this season. You look at Bukayo Saka, Emile Smith-Rowe, Martinelli as well. I think going into next season, and obviously looking at potentially who we could sign in the summer, I think next year is going to be a massive year for him. I think he's going to get more goals. I think there's going to be even more chances created, and I think there's going to be even more assists as well. The boy has got an amazing left peg on him. I've seen a few free kicks this season already where he's whipped it over the wall into the corner net. Knows how to slot the ball away as well. We've seen some cracking from him. I think he's been absolutely incredible.
Yes.
And another player that's transformed us.
And if I'm honest, I'm going to draw comparisons between him and Kevin De Bruyne for the reason of, at that age, I think De Bruyne had left Chelsea and gone over to Wolfsburg and was learning his trade there because he couldn't quite cut it in the Premier League. He didn't get really much of a rub of the green at Chelsea under Mourinho. But Ødegaard, he seems like he's been around forever, because he signed for Real Madrid at a silly age. But I think he's improving year on year on year. Last year on loan he was good. This year I think he has been phenomenal. I think the team let him down, as you said. Could have had so much more. But you think, give him another 5 years so he's in the same age as Kevin De Bruyne, I think he could end up being a better player, if I'm honest. And yeah, I can't fault that pick if I'm totally honest. I went for Mason Mount though. Again, sort of a guilty pleasure for me. I like watching Mason Mount play. I did at Derby when he was there under Lampard. I did when he first come through at Chelsea. But 11 goals and 10 assists. I thought was a decent return. Sort of always there, passing the ball, winning the ball back, driving forward, and just excited to watch. That's why I went for him, really.
Again, he was one of my picks. Very similarly.
I think that...
To be honest, I think the only reason, one of the reasons why Ødegaard got into my squad over Mason Mount is that I needed to have an Arsenal player in there.
Fair enough. So I think there has to be an honourable mention for Bernardo Silva. I think he could have got in as a winger. He's played sort of a little bit deeper, but again has been phenomenal. Couldn't quite, again, last game of the season sort of let him down with all the world watching. People who wouldn't necessarily watch Man City. I think he's been phenomenal this season and could have walked into that team as well. It's just very hard.
Yep.
Obviously, you can't pick everyone. So we'll start on the left-hand side of the front three. Heung-min Son, obviously he's my player of the year. That's why he's got a star around him. Mike agreed. Obviously, we've sort of sung his praises already this season, so we don't need to go into that too much. The next two players differ. So you've gone for Harry Kane, and I went for your player of the season in Ronaldo. So I went for Ronaldo in the fact of the basis that he's transformed United and sort of single handedly put them where they are. So how did Harry Kane pip him to your sort of front man?
Again, I think I've looking at the overall impact of the team's performance.
Yeah.
So not necessarily an individual. So for me, individual performance, Ronaldo absolutely kills it. I think with a better team around. See, the thing that's frustrating about Manchester United is that they have got some massive, massive names within their squad. They should be on paper. They're up there or thereabouts. Again, I think it's the issue with United has been this year is the lack of direction from the management.
Yes.
Possibly not being able to control the amount of egos within that dressing room. And I'm not talking about just one or two players. I'm talking about potentially the entire squad.
Yep.
For one way or another. Now, for me, Harry Kane is a player that we've had to see kind of adapt. Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's clearly not finished in terms of age. We've definitely seen a slowdown in pace, 100%. I've no question in my mind that he's already started to slow down. However, one thing that he does have is the ability to score goals.
Yep.
Not only score goals, but get in with the assists as well. Again, for the overall team performance, barring a few bad results, I think at the start of the season with what's his bloody name? Old Wolves boss.
Nuno Espirito Santo.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you. Wrong appointment for me.
Yes.
At the start of the season, and I think that's where Spurs have suffered.
Yes, definitely.
Throughout the season, I think if Conte was in at the start of the season, you were talking about closing the gap. I think potentially there could have been a closer gap.
Yeah.
But Nuno was a crap manager. And I apologise if I've offended anyone, but for me, I think it was a crap manager. All completely wrong for Spurs.
They went from defensive to even more defensive.
Yes.
So, yeah, I agree.
But when you look at the number of goals that he's got for this season, 17 goals, and contributed 9 assists as well. That's 26 goals. And looking at Son as well, 23 goals and 7 assists. That's a lot of goals to be scoring.
Yep.
Between just the two of them. When you look at the number of goals that have scored, so what's that? 40 goals between the two of them. Mm-hmm. That's 2/3 of their goals scored between those two players.
Yep.
And that's I can't.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does pain me to say it, but I can't argue with their quality.
Mm. So, and then I think, yeah, so we did Ronaldo. We don't need to go on to Ronaldo. I do agree, say he was on the list of potentially being up there. It was a sort of two-man list, really, for me. The right-hand side is where I struggled a little bit. Because obviously I've gone with Jared Bowen. Mohamed Salah was up there, but I'll come on to him in a minute, why I didn't put him in. Riyad Mahrez was in there because I think he's had a phenomenal season. Again, Bernardo Silva could have gone into that one. Foden could have gone into that one. And I could have even said, I'll just switch Mane, but that would have been a little bit of cheating. So I went with Jared Bowen over Salah for the reasons of Jared Bowen's played 51 games for West Ham this season, and he was out injured for a while. Top goal scorer in the league with 12 goals. Top assists, 12 assists. And I just think he's phenomenal. 18 goals in all competitions. I know we're only really looking at Premier League, but 13 assists as well. He's just, for a West Ham player, he's phenomenal. I'm going to swear at someone who keeps sending Facebook messages and it coming through on my computer in a minute. So apologies if you can hear the dings. But yeah, so for me, the reason I didn't put Salah in, because he did almost win Golden Boot, is the fact that halfway through the season he went, I want £450,000 a week, and if you don't give it to me, I'm going to leave. And that was the one thing for me. I was like, little bit of a cunt. But yeah, I just thought, for me, the professionalism of it, is he worth that? Possibly in the Liverpool team that he's playing in. Put him in another team, is he going to be the same without Mane and Firmino? Jota feeding him goals? I'm not 100% sure. But that's the only reason that Jared Bowen pipped him for me, was that thing of, I want £450,000 a week.
Fair enough. And I think the only reason I've gone for him, again, just looking at my research, 23 goals and 13 assists.
Yeah.
In a very, very strong Liverpool team. And let's be honest, for it to come down to the last game of the season, I think it's certainly one of the most exciting Premier Leagues that I've seen in a while. For top and bottom.
Yep.
Because it could have gone either way for both those. My question to you, I did put this on our WhatsApp group the other day. For me, or for you, sorry, does this contend with, was it the 11-12 Aguero season?
I don't think you'll ever see anything quite like that ever again. I don't know if that was a quote or something like that. It was exciting, but that was exciting for one game. And the fact that it was so late. I think this season tops it, because there was jeopardy at the bottom. It wasn't already signed, sealed, delivered who's already relegated. There were two teams that could have got relegated. Potentially three, but one had saved himself, 3 days beforehand. There was a tie for Europa League, Conference League in Manchester United and West Ham. Neither team won, so that was a little bit boring. There was a potential there for a top 4 battle between Arsenal and Tottenham, and there was a top 2 battle which could have gone either way. And for that reason alone, I think it tops that Aguero moment is iconic, but it tops that season, especially the ending for it.
Yeah,
because there was so much at stake on one day, and it was a ball of excitement that was like, oh my God, there hasn't been this much at stake. Because usually someone's been crowned 3 weeks before, everyone's relegated, the top 4 is pretty much done. It's just a case of who's going to finish 3rd and 4th. They've already qualified. So, yeah, for me, I loved it. Brilliant.
I've got to be honest. I think I do agree with you. I think for me, this has been the best ending to a Premier League season that I can remember. From looking at some of the watching one particular game and then trying to keep on top of it with the Sky Sports Score Centre, looking at the Liverpool game and seeing Man City going 2-0 down and thinking, what the hell is going on?
Yep.
And then you again go and check the Liverpool score, and all of a sudden you get flashes for the Man City game coming up as well. The goals. What was it? 3 goals in 6 minutes or something stupid. And Liverpool at that point were drawing. All they needed was one goal to potentially clinch the title if Man City didn't get that position. So yeah, absolutely phenomenal season.
Yep. And do you know what? I'm going to go into it a bit more in my season summary. My biggest concern is with our 2 right wingers, especially now Mbappe's not gone to PSG. If Salah leaves and goes to Madrid. Jared Bowen fits in that position nicely. 12 goals for West Ham. Put him in that Liverpool squad because he don't stop running. I think he beats Mo Salah's goal record. Might be an unpopular opinion. I thought it was going to happen in January. I've sort of resigned myself to already having a disappointing next year and then going, nah, we're in the Championship again. But hopefully it won't happen.
Right, I've got
Go on.
three very quick questions for you, specifically about West Ham.
Okay, go.
Signing of the season.
Kurt Zuma.
Most improved player.
Most improved player, Ben Johnson.
Player of the season.
Declan Rice. No, Jared Bowen. Jared Bowen.
Okay.
Hard questions. I went with Ben Johnson because he fell in and out of favour, but young player, phenomenal signing. And if we need to keep hold of him.
Okay.
But yeah.
So for me, Aaron Ramsdale, signing of the season. Most improved player, Thomas Partey. Obviously, once he's been playing, I know he got injured towards the back end of the season, but I think with him in the team, we looked a different outfit completely. And I think with him being out the team is when we stopped losing our clean sheets. Player of the season, without a shadow of a doubt, Bukayo Saka.
Yeah.
Played every single Premier League game, 11 goals, 7 assists. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
For a player of his age.
Oh, definitely.
Well.
So if you're still here, let us know your signing of the season, your most improved player of the season, and your player of the season for your own club in the comment section over on the YouTube channel. We will be going sort of partly bi-weekly now until we reach the full season again. So until the week after next, I've been Ian.
I've been Mike.
Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next season.
See ya.